your outlook. Those are all things that have stayed with me from then to now. And every interaction I've had with you from that point has reinforced those things. So I don't think I can really say much more because Reggie's about to come up here and introduce and talk a little bit about himself. So Reggie, I invite you to go ahead and come up to the front and close us out.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, afternoon, morning, somewhere, sometime is confusing thing. Before I begin, I'm gonna ask a question to the audience. Who would you say is your biggest hero?
The Lord.
Okay, like that.
Black Panther.
Yes, good. Well, within my speech, I hope to share a bit of not only my story, but a chance to share a little story about one of my heroes. So, thank you. Once again, my name is Reginald Holloway, and it's such an honor to stand here on this stage for the very first time at the 2025 Embark Conference. If you had met me years ago, you may have never believed I would make it here. And honestly, there were moments, critical moments, where I didn't see this as a reality. My college story looks very different in very, very, very weird ways, but as I would attend a few colleges beforehand, I would eventually find a landing space at the University of West Georgia. I was excited. I had found my passion in a program for television, and I threw myself into work at the campus TV station. Along with that, I would join many student organizations that fueled that passion. I loved it so much, I poured all of my time into it. But something very interesting happened. I was contacted by a member of my biological family, my first cousin. And he would give me a revelation about my family and the history of it, including the history of what happened with my mother, why things went the way they were, and what life looked like after I went into care. And while chasing that dream of being in college, I was slowly losing a grip on my academics because silently, as years progressed, I was dealing and confronting trauma that I was living with for quite some time after that. So eventually, due to my grades, I had to leave. And in that moment, I felt like I failed. I felt like I failed myself, and I failed everyone who ever believed in me, who ever saw anything of good in me. It was during that season, it was a dark Christmas, that season of disappointment that mentors and friends challenged me with questions. What is your why? Why did I choose college when there were so many other avenues to choose? And I never forget what came to mind. I thought about my time growing up in Atlanta, watching one of my heroes, which was my mom. My mother raised 4 kids on her own, working 2 jobs. I remember distinctively going to sleep at 7 p.m. because her shift was at 8 o'clock. And she would come home at 8 a.m. to help us get ready for school. I was privileged enough to watch her provide food on the table and a roof over our heads. I was privileged enough to see everything my mom had experienced and endured, from the highs and the lows. While witnessing this, there were many nights where things were tough, trying to help my mom by bringing food from school, hoping the milk wouldn't spoil just right to help aid with my sisters. We would end up in a room with nothing to do, with no TV and no games, just 4 kids and 4 walls. But there was one window within that room. And within that window, I would press my face to that glass and dream. I would imagine all of the places I could go, and all of the things that I could become, all the professions I could do. As a teacher, when I went to school, I could be a teacher. When I heard the news on the radio, I could be a reporter. And no matter how heavy life felt inside that room, that window became my escape. Oh, I began to see life. My vision became something much, much more. I kept going back to that window, and I realized in that present moment of despair and disappointment that my why had nothing to do about earning a degree. It was about keeping a promise to that young boy who once dared to dream. I didn't want to let him down, so I picked myself back up and regained focus on my academics and what I envisioned in that current state. And I did it. I found myself back at West Georgia after spending some time at North Georgia Technical College, but life wasn't done testing me. Because at one point, I faced severe housing insecurity while getting my academics back on track. And later, while at the University of West Georgia last year, in my senior year, on Mother's Day, I lost one of my heroes. She passed away. And losing her was one of the hardest moments of my life, but even in her absence, I felt her presence. I felt her work ethic, her sacrifice, her love, pushing me forward. So that summer I took 5 classes while in grief, and the family dynamic was dissolving further and further in. But understanding the depth of what my mom was going through and the depth of who she was as a mother and as a person that's trying to survive allows me to be who I am without fear and to be balanced within my passions and the things I desire. And so I did it. In 2024 fall semester, I graduated with a degree in digital media and communications with a minor in sociology. Today, I do not stand before you as a college graduate. I stand before you as the other end of what that young boy once looked out the window and imagined. I stand here before you as the answered prayers of a single mother with 4 children. I stand here as proof that hard work, grit, and love can carry you through when quitting would have been so much easier. And lastly, I stand here to thank you, all of you, to not only share this space with you, but share this time with you. Because to be honest, I'm not sure what my next chapter looks like. But I do know that the way that I define success is not in the success itself, nor the accomplishments, but to overcome the obstacles that provide roadblocks within the way. So, here's to the heroes. And my name is Reggie Holloway, and I thank you so much for your time.